Okay, all right. I'm going to open the meeting if we're all good. Yep, shaking the head. Okay, we acknowledge the Bungala and Ghana people, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and pay our respects to the elders past and present, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are present today. So welcome everybody. Grant will be coming in a little bit later, coming in from Melbourne. Sorry. Keep going? Yes, keep going. Okay. All right. Any declaration of members' conflict of interest? Laurie?
Yes, Grant, I do.
Okay, there you go.
4.1, rate relief for Westland Shopping Centre. My employer is a tenant.
Okay, all right then. Laurie? Pat? Just for the record, from the 1st of January this year, I've been appointed as an external member of the Audit and Risk Committee of Flinders University. So if there's any business that the council does with Flinders, if we can just deal with that when those items come up. All right, anybody looking for a discussion with members of staff, auditors? No, advise me, so I'll take that as a no. Okay, we've got the minutes of the meeting of the 9th of December. They were issued. Any comments? Peter?
No.
Laurie?
No, I've got it at my end.
Okay, Pat?
No.
Okay. Again, if when they are sent out, if there are any changes, can you just copy all if you do make a recommended change on that? Okay, we've got a resolution there. Can I have a mover? Thanks, Laurie. A seconder. Thanks, Pat. All those in favour? Okay, that's been passed. All right, we'll move into the confirmation of a circular resolution. So this is noting that the circular resolution in relation to the Q2 forecast. Kathy, did you want to speak to that at all?
No, I take that as read. As you will note, all members agreed to the recommendation, and that recommendation was then considered by council at the 17th of March council meeting and passed by the council.
Okay.
17th of February.
Sorry, 17th of February, yes.
Okay, there's a recommendation there. What I would like is that recommendation, but also with the feedback that we provided, and that was the feedback on page 15, be noted as well, without the comments from management.
Yep.
And then we've got the comments from management. Grant's not here. I couldn't find either of those first two items on page 15 in either the Q2 forecast or that paper that was presented to us in December. So okay. to me, they were still open items. So, Kathy, did you want to talk to that at all?
I won't provide comment in the context of the technical elements of it, but what we will do is we'll add that into the business arising and ensure that that is addressed as part of the minutes of this meeting that come out.
Okay, then I did contact Grant and say, if I've missed it, apologies, can you point me to it? And he just reissued the paper to me, but in that paper, it didn't deal with it from my perspective. So we've got the recommendation, and if we can have that feedback also there as well. Can I have a mover? Thanks, Pat. A seconder. Thanks, Laurie. All those in favour? That one is passed. Okay. We've then got the business arising. Kathy, did you want to talk to that?
Yes, I will. Just bear with me for a minute. So just working through each item, we do have a business continuity and emergency management plan report ready for the committee, but we deferred this item on the basis of time constraints with this meeting and the need to discuss in further detail the budgetary considerations given the circumstances with One Steel and the $2.4 billion package from the state and federal government. So we'll bring that forward to the next meeting of the committee. Same with the childcare service review and also the airport information. We'll have a deeper conversation at the next audit and risk committee in relation to those. I can report that in terms of the airport, the work in terms of the model around the airport is progressing in conjunction with the Air Peninsula groups, so the Air Peninsula councils who have airports. So we'll give a further update on that at the next meeting. Likewise, for the open space and community playing fields review, we have a draft report already prepared that does need some refinement, and that will come through to the April meeting. Budget management strategies, as members would be aware, we held a workshop with the council last week, and we'll talk further about those budget management strategies later in this meeting. And again, in relation to the childcare centre and the Whyalla airport, that will come back through to the next meeting.
Kathy, given the next meeting is only a month away,
yes,
we may have issues with Pat around availability, and I'd rather this be dealt with as a complete, so it's not, well, let's go back and get more information. Is it worthwhile moving that to May?
That will.
Not on holidays. I've got jury duty in April, so I may be available, but I won't know until arguably 4 p.m. the afternoon before.
Yeah.
But if I'm not available, I could provide
comment. Yeah, it's just it's an important matter we've waited time for.
Yes.
And the ground seems to have shifted around the childcare centre.
Yes.
From where we're with divestment. So would there be an issue with pushing it out to May, which gives you guys more time as well?
No problems with pushing all of those items out to May. I would still like to retain, or we still need to retain, the April meeting, because that's part of the annual business plan and budget cycle that we have in terms of the preparation of the draft annual business plan and budget, and then the going out to community engagement on that. So happy to push these items through to the May Audit and Risk Committee meeting, but we will need to retain the April meeting.
Yeah, I'm not pushing the April meeting out. It's more making sure that. Yep.
No problems. We'll take those items out to May. Sure.
Okay, and the key for me around the childcare centre is a full understanding of P&L, plus projection, plus balance sheet, because as I said, the ground seems to materially have changed, and still seems to be money being spent on the childcare centre as well, both OPEX and CAPEX. So,
what's changed? Sorry, what's changed?
Just reading through from management comment, it's being shown as now a profit centre, not a cost centre, and being a strategic decision to exit, not a financial consideration. And just on that, Kathy, did we reach out to Don Manifold?
No, I'm sorry, not yet, as things have developed over the last couple of months. I just haven't had the time, but I will do that now.
Yeah, if you could, it just makes me look a little bit silly. I spoke to him at a function.
Yeah, no, of course, that's, I recognise that. It's just that everything going on in Whyalla has diverted attention. So, yep, I will certainly do that.
Oh, I don't think you've had that much on your plate. I think you're overplaying it.
Okay, fair enough.
No, that's fine, Kathy, when you can, if you could, please.
Sure.
Anything else you want to update us on?
No, not at this stage of the meeting. What I will say, though, and I probably should have said it in the introductory comments, the Mayor and I will need to leave this meeting early, probably at about 1:15 or 1:30, as we'll both be attending the creditors meeting this afternoon.
Yep, we advised that by Justin. That's why I'm trying to push through. Just on page 22 and 23, there's some X's for this meeting. Are they all just pushed out till next meeting? Because there's like reports on annual insurance claims.
Yes,
There's-
yeah. Again, we did, and we do have all of those reports prepared. But again, we pushed those out, so we'll push them to the main meeting certainly.
Okay. Again, Kathy talked that over with me, so I'm comfortable with
Is
that.
that going to mean the May meeting's extra long?
It may. Can we look at start time on May?
Mhm.
How about we pull the agenda together and see what it looks like, and we can bring the start time a bit earlier.
Yep. Okay, we've got then the recommendation noting that with Kathy's comments. Laurie, have I lost you?
Yeah, he's dropped out.
No, I'm still here, but no, I've had a couple of bits break out, but I've caught all of that and I'm happy to move that.
Okay, all right, mover from Laurie, we're on page 17. Seconder from Pete, all those in favour, that's been carried. Okay, we'll move on now to the procurement of the external auditor. Justin or Kathy, who's going to deal with that one?
Kathy can.
Kathy can, okay, there's a delegation. Kathy, where you go?
Thank you, Justin and Chair. I take the report as read. The timing is now appropriate for us to appoint a new external auditor, and we are seeking the committee's approval to the process that we're intending on actually using, being a select tender, and to go to Bentley's Creative Auditing and Galpin's. As you'll see, the proposed weighted criteria are actually listed in the report, and the audit specification is there. That audit specification reflects the requirements of the Local Government Act and has been designed to ensure that external audit services are delivered as necessary.
Thanks, Kathy. Laurie, anything from you?
No, I'm fine, other than I did have a chuckle when I saw the name Creative Auditing. It's interesting choice.
Creative accounting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pete?
No, the whole process appears to be pretty sound. I'm happy.
Pat?
On the panel that deals with the select tender, generally the chair of the audit committee gets involved in that, but it's a question.
Kathy?
In the past, in other organisations that I've been in, what we have done is had an internal panel looking at the proposals that come in. And then in terms of the shortlisted proposals, albeit we've only got 3 that we're actually going out to. So the shortlisted proponents are then invited to do a presentation at which we have invited the Chair of the Audit and Risk Committee to participate in. I'm very happy to have the Chair of the Audit Risk Committee as part of the evaluation panel. I guess it's up to the committee as to whether or not you would like representation on that panel, or given the process outlined in this report, if you're comfortable with simply a recommendation coming from the administration.
From my perspective, given the 3 and given how narrow it is, I'm happy not to be involved, but I'm happy if the committee want me to be involved. So, Pat, where do you sit?
I mean, it was just a question.
Yeah.
I see our our role is really just to accept the process according to this. So I'm okay with that. It was really a question because often
It's the other way around.
it's the other way around.
Yep. Laurie?
Given they're well-known, well-experienced, I would have just thought that final recommendation should be endorsed by the chair of the audit committee at some point. So there's some involvement. It's more a question of whether the chair wants to be involved the whole way through, or just to make sure they've got a casting eye over the outcome.
Pete?
I'm not fussed either way, to be honest.
Okay. Oh, well, it's going to come back to us anyway, the final one. So I'm happy if you want me out of it, Kathy and Justin, to keep me out of it. If you want me in there to kick them a little bit, I'm happy to be in there as well. So
I'm actually relaxed, Grant, with you being involved, but maybe not right down at the detailed level. Perhaps what we'll do is we will forward to you a draft recommendation report, which outlines the strengths and weaknesses of each of the proponents for you to agree or otherwise to submit to the Audit and Risk Committee for adoption.
Happy with that. Okay, just on page 20, a recommendation. I think it'd be worthwhile having a section called strategic value add. And this is normally what you see with external auditors. They bring other things to the table around insight, around market trends and so forth, something we haven't seen from the current engagement. So you might want to drop your pricing to 30% and have another section called strategic value add at 10%.
Yeah.
And put it back on them around, it's just a category called strategic value add to the council, see what they come up with.
Yep.
You know, in your larger firms, so your KPMGs and your EYs and Deloittes and PwC, you're receiving updates in relation to thought management, emerging trends, all these bits. I know these are smaller, but, you know, you do have the Bentleys in there as well who do have those resources, and they should be sharing it with the council. So if you're comfortable to have that section, but also putting it in the back of the body of the tender around, you're looking for something around strategic value add. So probably go to Justin first on that one, your thoughts on that, and then to Kathy.
Yeah, no, very much support that. As soon as you mentioned it, my mind went as one of those challenges that I don't think our council's putting a lot of attention to just because of other commitments. So yeah, I agree.
Kathy?
I agree as well. As soon as you mentioned it, I thought absolutely it's something that we would very often put in tender documentation as part of the weighted criteria, and it should absolutely be added here. Okay, all right then. So subject to inclusion of those comments above, we've got the recommendation on page 25, which we can fill out appropriately. Can I have a mover? Thanks, Pat. Seconder, thanks, Laurie. All those in favour? That one's passed as well. Okay. Going that fast, I can't keep up with myself. 2.2, bridging loan. Who would like to take that? I might kick off and then perhaps over to Justin. As the committee is aware, we have a $32 million project in terms of the Whyalla Airport airside upgrade. The agreement with Fulton Hogan has been executed and works have commenced. The funding agreements between the state and the federal government are yet to be executed, but we have had confirmation absolutely that that they are coming shortly. One of our concerns is that the grant funding will not be received in council's account due to government machinations in the necessary time to effect payment of invoices that come through from Fulton Hogan. We are yet to receive an invoice from Fulton Hogan. We do have about a $6 million buffer, and I note that Sandra is online and she'll correct me if I'm wrong, but we do have about a $6 million buffer before any form of bridging finance would be needed, but we wanted to be prudent to ensure that we have a facility in place only if necessary. I'm not anticipating it will be necessary, but only if necessary.
Is 6.4 enough?
Yes, we've got 6 mil, add another 6.4 million, that's 12 million. So yes, that should be enough. We're anticipating this will be a project that will give rise to invoices in the order of $5 million per month. So this gives us, a good 2 months in advance. And if the funding agreement is not in place and signed within 2 months, then I think we should all pack up and go home, basically. But no, I did have communication with the federal government. It's the federal government side of things that is holding things up at the moment. The state government are pretty clear in terms of where they're at with their draft, and that's almost that's only awaiting for the federal funding agreement as well. I communicated with the feds on Friday, and they are very much aware of the urgency and importance of the funding agreement coming through, and it is close.
Yeah, I suppose my only concern with the amount, if it's not high enough, is what we're seeing with the sale of the land issue still outstanding as well. So they say it's closed, but we haven't seen the cash. So as long as you guys are comfortable with the 6.4, I think that you've had a discussion with the LGFA as well, and they're comfortable with the credit. There's no standby fees. So I'll open it up for any discussion. Pat?
Just a thought, there's if it's not signed before an election's called, there's not going to be a further hold up as a result of caretaker period, is there?
Kathy?
That's a very good question, Pat. It needs to be signed. My thinking is it needs to be signed before the government moves into caretaker. And so that would also be part of the urgency pushing on the federal government in terms of getting it signed and through to us.
You've got about a week, I reckon.
If that.
That's what I reckon too. So I'm anticipating it this week.
Jodie and Anthony are ready. She's bought her red dress.
She's had that for ages.
Okay, she's got a wardrobe of red dresses. Laurie?
You're on mute, Laurie.
Can't lip read, mate.
Sorry, I'll try to be a bit clearer with my lip reading, my lips so you can read them. But no, I had exactly the same question around the whole caretaker mode. And I just wonder if we are in a situation where there is some risk there. Do we need to get some sort of undertaking from the other party to acknowledge that there may be some sort of delay or something to the process? I don't know. What would happen if there's a complete about face on policy and nothing's been signed? Where do we stand in that scenario?
I think that's also a really good question. In noting the $2.4 billion that was announced by the state and the federal government in terms of Whyalla, part of that $2.4 billion was around an amount of money, I think at $100 million, and Justin will have this in better detail than I do, for infrastructure projects, and that was inclusive of the Whyalla airport. There is bipartisan support in terms of the investment into Whyalla. And so I guess from the way I'm seeing it, whilst the risk is present, it is not a risk that is at the, sort of 90% or extreme state. So I think that perhaps what we do is early this week, we continue to follow up with the federal government as to where that grant funding agreement is. And we open a discussion with the state government as to if it eventuates that we don't have the funding agreement prior to the federal government moving into caretaker mode, then what is the guarantee that the council has that the full funding for the project will be available?
Yeah, I think my timing wise, 2, 3, 4, 5 months to the federal government probably means nothing, and they may or may not have other factors that will dictate the timing at which they release funds. And this particular thing might be more critical for us than it is for them. So making sure we've got that covered off, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I think it's key the state are part of this, part of the solution, not the problem for us on this one here. So I think you've got that. This is not going to change the recommendation other than if we're caught short and need a greater level of standby there. Peter, anything from you?
No, just a general comment. Just in the summary, it is mentioned about the strategic land sale. And I know we mentioned it at the budget workshop the other day. In light of obviously the hydrogen being mothballed at the moment, are we going to get that money or aren't we?
Pete, can we capture that under the in-camera discussion later on as part of that update piece?
Yep.
So not lost, appropriate question, and we'll capture it there if you're comfortable.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll go to...
Sorry, if I can if I can just say also through the chair that we have had a progress payment received from Fulton Hogan just now for $1.1 million. So, that's, quite a deal less than the $5 million that we were expecting. So, I think everything that has been stated in this item is absolutely important, and we'll follow through on those. But just letting you know that we have had one progress payment request now.
Okay, thank you. All right. So if we can go to page 33, I just want to tidy up the recommendation if we can. So to me, the recommendation is the Audit and Risk Committee recommends to Council the establishment of a $6.4 million borrowing facility with the local government authority in the form of cash advance debenture with a maximum term of 6 months to maintain cash flow during the airport runway project. So what you're doing is you're recommending the borrowing and the purpose for the borrowing rather than the purpose up front. Okay?
Yeah, so to maintain cash flow during the airport upgrade project.
To maintain, yep.
Yep.
Can we add something like on the basis that, it's to be reimbursed by, federal government, whatever, over whatever period of time? So it just doesn't read like establishing an additional borrowing facility. That's not underwritten.
Yeah, fine. Okay, we'll come up with some wording and will be circulated as part of the minutes.
Yep. Okay. All right. Got a mover? Laurie, seconder. Thank you, Pat. All those in favour? I've lost you, Pete.
No, I'm here.
I think it can only handle a certain number.
Okay. All right. All those in favour? Pass. Thank you. All right. We'll move into the quarterly procurement report.
So can I just actually through the chair, I've just noticed that we've had the representatives from BDO join the meeting. Hello, Scott, Kiffin and Tanya. My absolute significant apologies here. Given the events that have occurred in Whyalla over the last few weeks or over the last 4 weeks, we have recast this agenda to really strip it back so that we are only talking on budgetary and very strategic matters. So my apologies, I should have advised you on Friday that we have actually deferred the item in relation to your internal audit report on the strategic planning element through to our next meeting. So very sorry to have done that to you. Things have been crazy busy, and so my apologies.
So you can stand down, I think the message is.
Yeah.
Yes.
See you next
That's
time.
fine. Just for
Thank
info,
you.
it was a pretty good report, pretty clean. So,
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All
all right, all the best, guys.
right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kiffin.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Kiffin.
Tanya. Thanks,
Bye.
Scott. Bye.
You just scared me then, Kathy. I thought I read the wrong pack.
No. When I saw them come up, I thought, oh, whoopsie. So,
okay. All right.
yeah.
We'll move in. Oh, good. We can deal with that. We'll move into 3.1, the procurement. It's fairly detailed. I'm going to open it up for questions. Pete?
Yeah, just a question regarding the, where are we? Exemptions 2.1. I'd just like to know the WAN links. Does that include the foreshore camera system?
I will take that one on notice, Councillor Klobuchar, for additional detail. But once we re-establish the WAN links, then that ability will translate into being able to fix the cameras. But let me take that fully on notice.
Why do you ask, Pete?
Just because there's been some conjecture as to whether they're working properly or not. We don't think they are. And
No, they're not.
it's a bit of a concern.
Not.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Pete?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Laurie?
My question is, does that number of exemptions normal, high, or different, number one, to anything normal? And number two, has there been any feedback from any other parties on any of these tenders that have been awarded at all? Questioning process.
Kathy?
The number of exemptions probably over the last 6 months has been higher than usual. And we will see, as part of our procurement processes over the coming months, potentially for some more exemptions coming through. And the reason for that is around seeking, from a local economic stimulus perspective, that we can seek to award more work to the local businesses, in part response to the current economic circumstances that are across Whyalla. And so yes, the exemptions have been slightly higher than ordinarily come through. There has been a small amount of feedback from local suppliers in terms of the award of some contracts, but there has also been recognition in terms of, and this is around the airport project in part, recognition from a capacity point of view and the actual skill sets that are required in terms of the runway overlay. But we're certainly working through that.
Yes, Justin.
If I may just add to it, you'll see, Laurie, that probably 2/3 of the exemptions relate to the airport upgrade project, which we had to obviously push through as quickly as we could in order to meet the timeline. So you'll see that about 2/3 of them are all to do with the airport.
Okay, and based on you dealing with the aggrieved parties or people a little bit annoyed, is anything of material there, Kathy, that you're concerned with?
No, one of them in particular, the price that was submitted, as part of the tender price, was significantly, sort of $500,000 higher than where we ended up going to. And the other one is in relation to line marking, and the capacity of the organisation just isn't there in terms of undertaking the line marking every day during the night to restore the runway into fully functioning capability for the next day. I am still working with that particular supplier in terms of what might happen.
Okay.
In that regard, I need to work with Fulton Hogan to see whether or not there is something that can be done.
Okay, so we've got open dialogue with these companies. Okay, all right then. Okay, we'll go to the resolution. Can I have a mover? Thanks, Pat. Seconder, thanks, Pete. All those in favour of recommendation on page 36? Can we just note, can we take out the received and note and just make it the committee notes report? Don't think we've been a bit formal on the receiving bit. Okay, that's passed. All right, we'll move into the financial controls self-assessment.
Sorry, is there any point in us noting the report and noting the increased number of exemptions and the reasons for that? Because
we'll put that in the body of the report. Okay. So that's where discussion was held on.
Yep.
If you're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And then we'll note the report.
Yeah. Okay.
It's okay?
Yep, that's okay.
We could do either way. Okay. Kathy, in the absence of Grant.
Yes, I'll take this report as read, and actually, Sandra, if there's anything that you wish to highlight in this report in terms of the internal control self-assessment.
Thanks, Kathy. Grant and I actually both worked through this with the relevant staff, so there's still a couple of areas that we need to look at. and move towards doing a couple of policies. But generally, the internal control assessment came out very well, and the auditors are actually quite happy with it.
Peter, questions?
No, I did have a question about 6.3.2 on page 52, but the report had further context on page 54, so I was happy with that.
Okay, thank you. Laurie?
Nothing in particular, and it was good to, even though they were only on for 20 seconds, to hear from the auditors that the papers look clean. There was nothing coming up anyway, but this looks pretty straightforward to me, so all good.
Pat?
Yeah, it's positive. I see the recommendation that the move from 2 years to 4 years.
Just want to talk through that, Kathy?
If you could, what page are we on? Sorry.
Right at the front. 44.
Summary.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
this is where we're talking about going from
Yeah. Only minor changes. Yes. I can't actually make any comment on that particular one. My apologies to the committee. Sandra, do you have thoughts on that?
Thanks, Kathy, and through the chair. Generally, we haven't had too much change with any of our internal controls. I think that's probably the main reason that we're actually recommending that it goes to a 4-year review policy cycle. We actually do still review this annually. So if anything does need to be changed, that will be done. It won't necessarily mean it will do it a 4-year review. We may be reviewing it on a more regular basis than that. But a lot of it doesn't actually change. So that's probably the main reason that the 4-year review cycle has been recommended.
Just on that policy, is that something that executive management are changing, or that's coming back through the committee to go to the council?
That will come back through the committee to go to the council.
I think at that stage then the justification of 4 to 2 should be covered off there. Because mine is, if you're doing it anyway, why wouldn't you then bring it to us?
Okay.
So if we can leave that one with you.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Got the recommendation there. A mover, thanks Pat. Seconder, thanks Laurie. All those in favour? Is that a yes, Pete?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, we've got the external audit plan. I take it you're not bringing in the external auditors to talk to their plan, Kathy? You're just going to take it as is? It's fairly
just take it as is, yes.
Okay, yep. We'll open it up for discussion. Pat?
Sorry, can I just go back
Of course you
one
can.
step? Just looking at the controls requiring improvement.
Yep.
Obviously, hopefully that will be reported through. So that's page 53. Will be reported through as things.
I think they're saying they're not going to do that.
Oh, they're not going to do that.
No.
But I mean, I just looked at as an example, 6.3.2, elected members obtain unauthorised private benefit from council. The control is not a control of them not getting unauthorised use. It's just making sure we get paid for unauthorised use. So some of those controls don't really talk to the actual risk.
They'll allow private use of the assets.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Kathy, did you want to talk to that at all? Because I know that unless I've got it wrong, you're not going to bring this back to committee. This is a management activity.
Yeah, it's a management activity, but I am actually happy to look more closely at these controls requiring improvement and bring back to the committee a couple of them. I think that that those ones in terms of the 6.3.2, 6.4.2 and 7.1.1, we do need to look at more closely and potentially bringing them back into council.
Sure,
or back
bring
into
it back.
the committee. Yeah.
Yeah, I read 6.4.2 and 7.1.1 saying, why don't you just do it and close it off?
Yeah.
You know, if you're using personal expenditure and you've done it twice, you lose your card. It's pretty. Okay, we'll let you bring that one back then.
Yeah, let me bring those ones back, and we'll have a more robust discussion about it.
Okay, you comfortable with that, Pat? Yep. Okay, we'll capture that as just a note. All right, we will go to the external audit plan. It's pretty self-explanatory. Laurie, anything from you?
Yeah, my question is, given we're probably going to go through an unprecedented time of different amounts of money coming through the city and, you know, projects like the airport, etc. Is there anything that we need to ensure they're focusing on differently through this period of time? And I guess that last issue around procurement was just a classic example where we've got the number of exemptions sort of going through because of different activity. And I'm just curious as to how we're thinking about that from the perspective of having the auditors involved.
Kathy?
Look, I think that's actually a really good point to raise. We're not operating in a business as usual environment at this point in time, given the amount of focus on Whyalla, the amount of money coming through into the council for major projects and the like. So I think that there could be an additional focus area, either in the external audit being undertaken by Dean Newbury in terms of procurement and project acquittals, or we could add that to our internal audit program as something to be done during the course, or, you know, anytime from now, perhaps in about, you know, in a few months' time. So, you know, up to the committee in terms of where your preference would be, but I think that would be useful.
I think you need it in the sign-off of the external audit. You may go deeper in the internal audit, but if you look at the key area audit focus on page 62, they can't talk about accounting for grant income, and procurement is on that as well. I think just in there, we provide feedback that we want them to specifically deep dive into the level of grant income being provided for major projects. So spell out the non-BAU activity that we've got. Are you comfortable with that, Laurie?
Yeah, as long as we've got some sort of coverage. And I'm sure it's going to be fluid and things will change, but let's just keep it front of mind.
Yeah, and I think we'll put an action on the action statement around consideration how deep we go with internal audit look at it. Pat, you okay?
Yeah, that was a question I had as well. I'm also a bit confused about timing. So this is the 24-25 plan, right? Which means that they should have done a bit of this already. And they're supposed to be meeting with us in our March meeting, February March meeting. So have they done all this stuff so far?
Kathy, so this comes down to there's always a timing issue. So when page 60, around January, February, March, where are we up to with that?
Yeah. Sandra, do you want to provide an update in terms of where we're up to? There has been some initial meetings with the external auditors. So over to you, Sandra.
You're on mute if you're talking, Sandra.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Better.
Yep. So the actual grant income, the auditors generally check towards at the end of the year audit because it does go over the whole financial year. They don't focus so much on it on the interim audit, but the end of financial year is a big check for grant income. So
no, Sandra, this is relating to the timing of the audit overall, not specifically the focus on grant income. So they have already commenced some of the tasks and activities of this internal audit plan already.
Okay, sorry. So the interim audit is generally based upon the internal controls, which they actually did the audit a couple of weeks ago. We're still waiting for the audit report to come back from that. It should possibly be here this week. We actually expected it last week, but we will be expecting it this week. So this audit, they just generally check all how we're going with the internal controls. So we're expecting that report soon.
Okay, that'll come to the April meeting, not the March one?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yeah.
we'll bring that and we'll invite the external auditors to the March meeting to address that.
April meeting.
Yes, sorry, April.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you look at page 60, January, February and February, March, up to the interim testing, they're on track. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, they are. Yeah. The reason why the audit's has taken a little bit longer is because they're actually doing a bit more on the contract testing. So that's the last bit of it that we're aware of that they're checking, and they've been a bit more thorough with the type of contracts that we've been having lately, the bigger contracts.
Yeah, I've seen this in the other organisation where they bring the plan to a meeting after they've already started it. So it's not unusual, but it's good to know we're on track and we'll get that briefing in April.
Yes, definitely.
Anything else, Pat? Peter?
No, nothing to add, thanks.
Suppose the only bit for me is normally in the plan you'd have things like what is the materiality level, what's their fee as well. Do we get separate engagement and annual arrangement letters from them?
Sandra, my understanding is that we do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Definitely get the engagement letters annually.
Do we get those? Do they come to?
They should. I will follow that one up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they come towards the October, sort of as we're finalising end of financial year. They'll get it, put through to the committees.
No, the annual arrangement letter is what you agree up front.
Yeah,
the plan is part of that, and the engagement letter is what you agree up front as well. So can you take both of those away, Kathy, and just ask the question?
Yeah.
And I'm happy if you just want to bounce off me what would normally see with those.
Yeah, it's. I'll take that offline with you, Grant.
Okay, all right. So we'll go to the recommendation, and the recommendation is that the audit committee note the external audit plan. A mover. Thanks, Pat. Seconded. Thanks, Pat. In favour? You there, Laurie?
Yep, in favour.
Okay, that is passed. All right, we might keep pushing on if people are comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll go to the request for rate relief.
I've declared a conflict here, Grant.
Yeah, Pete, I'm comfortable for you to stay in the meeting, but not vote on this one if you like, or do you want to absent yourself totally?
No, I'm happy with that.
Are you happy with that, Laurie? Peter remains in the meeting.
Well, it's more for Pete than anyone else, really.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll go back into meeting, and of a mover, Laurie, seconded Pat. We're back in, and next meeting is 7th of April. We'll just work on Pat's availability around that. And I'll close the meeting. Thank you, everybody.